The long dreaded question. Is vinyl better than digital? It's like Pepsi versus Cola, Beatles versus the Stones, Pink versus the Stink, vinyl versus digital. Let's get into it. If it was made digitally and mastered digitally, then surely having it on vinyl isn't really that much better. But I can assure you, being the fool that I am, I still enjoy investing in nonsense that I know is basically a digital mastering. So essentially, you're really paying $30 to have it on a big, shiny, waxy thing, but it's really a digital copy on a vinyl press. Now, on the other hand, when it is an act that really records analog, whether to tape and or otherwise, but if they record to tape and master for vinyl, because mastering to vinyl is a completely separate subject matter than mastering strictly for digital. Those are two very different processes, which I won't get into right now because I don't want to elaborate on a 40-minute episode here. But there is another act who consistently puts out music as well. That album just came out about a month ago. This came out a few months ago as well. Oh, we slipping. This is by an act called Rival Sons. Great band, great execution, and these guys record to tape. They record to tape, they master the vinyl, and you can tell, and it sounds, when it rains, it pours, darling. So it all depends on a lot of variables here. The process for mastering vinyl records is long-winded, but just know that there are limitations to how much information you can actually put onto the record. This is why artists have to be very smart about when they're curating their albums, which songs to place where, because as you start getting more and more into, as the needle starts to get closer to the inner grooves of the record, you start to have a slower velocity here, which causes a much more pressure, right? It causes it to be a harder time for that needle to really give you those higher frequencies. You're putting a lot more pressure on this needle now. And so there are some things to think about when you are processing for vinyl. Now, I know most of you aren't thinking about all of that, really. But what you have to think about is the kind of genre of music that you listen to, because the certain genres that you listen to will affect this more than others. For instance, in the world of pop and hip-hop, there are certain higher frequencies that really emphasize that sound, and that can be lost, that information can be lost throughout the record as you start getting into the end of each side. It's something to think about when investing into your vinyl collection. I'll give you an idea as to what the whole process is like to even get the end result in your hand. It's quite a manufacturing job. Here's the breakdown. To get this, essentially, you have to get, the machine is called a lathe. And this machine, as shown here, will essentially cut your lacquer. Now, the lacquer, which is your cut, is what they are going to use when they need to send it to get plating. The plating, I'll show you there as well. The plating is your stamper, essentially. This stamper is what they're going to use to recreate every record pressed. Very important. With the stamper, you can now make a few test pressings. Now, these test presses generally get sent to the artist or the record label, depending on how big the scale is here. And they listen to these and they really grade them and they really try to see if they have the right feel or if it needs a little bit of work, which is why some people get them sent back and just keep rotating and keep working it out until they get the sounds that they want in the ears, yeah? Well, a lot of people argue though, is it really worth it? And I can assure you that the people involved in manufacturing and the entire process wouldn't do it if they didn't feel otherwise, I'll tell you that. But the long, strenuous process seems to, for them, deliver a better product, allegedly. But audiophiles do prefer the transition from analog to maintain that authenticity of their desired product. So let's check out digital and see just how they feel on their end. Well, digital, let's just look at waveforms right now. In the world of analog, think of analog as this wave, this current in the ocean that is very smooth and flows and just ever flows and moves with the tide. Now think of digital as rigid staircases that move very stagnantly. And in between those harsh steps, you miss some information in between here. Whereas this transfer and current of the energy there picks up the frequencies a lot better. This is why many suggest that they prefer one versus the other. Outside of the potential for missing information here and there, digital is a lot more limitless than analog is. Analog, once again, has those physical limitations as to how much information it can store on a record compared to digital. Digital, my goodness, you can have 30 songs on a CD and you wouldn't be sweating a bullet. What? I don't know. Don't quote me on the bullet. Now, the thing is that the grooves of a record, if they're packed so tightly, they can really affect the fidelity and overall quality of the record. Essentially, you want those grooves to be able to breathe. And if the sound that you're listening to has an impeccable amount of low-end frequency, bass, and just is loud, you're really going to gravely affect the audio quality, putting it all on one LP. This is why there are certain companies like Mobile Fidelity, Sound Lab, and Analog Production, Quality Records, really Ace. They do double LPs, 45 RPM. Instead of your typical, they slow it down, they speed up the rate a little bit more, instead of 33 to 45, in order to be able to transfer more information and be able to pick up all little details that you might not have been able to enjoy on just your regular standard press. Now, the only thing that is a downfall in this is, as much as you might have better fidelity, you're gonna have to get off your ass and funk it up all the time. Because now, instead of there being 6 songs on each side, you're looking at 3 on each side, and now you gotta get the other one, and get the other. It's a whole merengue, honey. But if you're willing to shake it, then come on and take it. But for me, as much as I love a good gatefold, and if they're needed, then I'm all for it. If that means more music, then I'm all for it. But if it's an unnecessary press to press it on a gatefold, then it frustrates me because it takes up a lot more real estate when I could have just got it on one LP and had it done for the day. if you're newly getting into vinyl and or just want better fidelity and are really curious about the kind of records that I'm talking about, where they are mastered to vinyl, where it is sourced from the original master tapes, then always be sure to look at records and look at the hype sticker, because a lot of the times you will be sure to know that they will want to brag about that, and they will want to let you know that they did go through this entire process just to give you a better product. Believe me, they're not going to be shy about that, especially because they know that there are a lot of audiophiles out there, and they sometimes use that as a marketing ploy to really get you reeled in. But alas, the question I have to ask, is analog really better than digital? Who cares? If it makes you happy, it makes you happy. If it brings you joy to clutch it like it's pearl and just enjoy it and have it even on display, as some people do what you will. Subscribe to this channel if you feel like you're the rebellious one in your family. Subscribe to this channel if you feel like you have better taste than anyone you've ever met and you like a weird eccentric soul, but you can never find them because you're always stuck in your basement listening to the best shit anybody's ever heard. Subscribe. I make videos every Tuesday and Thursday. You know you want to. Subscribe, darling. It's just a click away. It's just a shot away. It's just a click away.